Welcome to the video series on inbound Australian tax updates. This video covers the public country-by-country reporting rules that have been released. So my name is Jonathan Malone. I'm a global tax partner at PwC, and today I'm joined by Sarah Saville, a corporate tax partner, and Greg Weikart, a transfer pricing partner in the global tax team. So thanks so much for being here to discuss this today. So Sarah, transparency has been a thing that has been announced for some time now, and there have been a range of measures. But could you just run through where this particular measure on public C/C fits in with what's been described and announced to date?
Sure, thanks Jono. So the current public C/C measure is part of a range of transparency measures that was included in a multinational package which was initially proposed by the Labor government as part of one of their election policies. Announced as part of the budget, they identified 3 specific measures for transparency. The first 2 being the Australian Public Company Reporting Requirement and the requirement for tenderers of government contracts to disclose their country of tax domicile. They are relatively uncontroversial matters, but the key measure which we're here to talk about today is the public country-by-country reporting measure, which will require country-by-country reporting parent entities to disclose country-by-country reporting information on a jurisdiction-by-jurisdiction basis here in Australia.
So Greg, over to you, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions because some of these aspects took people by surprise. So keen to hear areas that people have been highlighting to you in terms of questions that have been coming up from taxpayers.
Thanks, Jono, and excuse my croaky voice because I have been speaking about this a lot to businesses, as a lot of us have been. I think the first surprise was the public nature of the proposed information that would have to be disclosed under these draft rules, albeit the government had taken this as a policy measure to the election. And as long as C/C reporting has been a concept, and that has been well over a decade now, the question of whether the information should be mandatorily disclosed to the public has been a topic. And so this public reporting aspect of C/C reporting has had an air of inevitability about it. And here we are in Australia as one of, well, the first country to do true C/C reporting in totality. The way I've been thinking about it and talking about it with clients is that really what's required here is the C/C report as you know it today, prepared on a confidential basis, but with some modifications and then some additional items. The modifications of the C/C report really boil down to a concept of consolidation of disclosure of information per jurisdiction instead of aggregation. So to take a simple example, jurisdictional aggregation of revenues reported in the C/C report today under the OECD approach simply adds up revenues and can often produce a kind of nonsensical outcome depending on how many entities you have in a jurisdiction. Whereas the draft laws would call for a consolidation of that information. The additional information which is also being required under these draft laws, has been a cause of some interest to businesses, particularly the listing of intangible assets by jurisdiction and their book values. That has caused some businesses to consider how that they would do a stock take of that information, prepare for that information having to be disclosed. And then the final point I would say, Jono, is the requirement to calculate an effective tax rate per jurisdiction is linked in the draft law to the OECD's model rules on Pillar 2, which are a relatively new requirement. In fact, not yet in place in any country. And so that would be challenging for some businesses to comply with, given the law is going to come into effect, or is proposed to come into effect very shortly.
And Greg, as someone that's been working with country-by-country rules for a number of years now, and we're in a consultation period with a due date of 28 April 2023 with a start date somehow described, but broadly around 1 July 2023 and thereafter. What should people be thinking about to get ready for that at this point in time?
I think really 2 points, Jono. One is to monitor the development of the rules very closely. There may well be changes, submissions are being made to the draft laws, but we expect that some form of these laws will pass Parliament reasonably quickly. And then also make key stakeholders within your business aware of these rules. My final point would be that there are many elements of these rules, despite the disclosure being required under the draft rules on a public basis, which are not new and are common to the C/C report under the OECD standard, which of course is on a confidential basis. And that means there's a wealth of information and knowledge built up over the years from that process that businesses have had to do under the C/C report. And so speak to your advisors or do some reading about kind of some of the definitional issues or events that can arise which cause challenges for preparing C/C report information today.
And Sarah, any additional points from you? Because I'm sure you've been thinking about this a lot in the broader context of transparency.
Yeah, look, I think the key thing to note is that this measure is much broader than both confidential C/C reporting that occurs to date, the EU Public C/C Reporting Directive, as well as the voluntary GRI tax disclosures. And so it is really important to prepare in collating and reviewing and what governance you need around that information, as well as noting that it will commence before the EU Public C/C Directive. So it is really important that clients make sure their global management and boards are aware of this requirement and that they're currently preparing what needs to be reported and how stakeholders may respond to the information that is reported.
Great. Well, there's a lot to cover there, and thanks for your time today. For people that are interested in finding out more, we have a tax alert which goes into these topics in more detail, and also feel free to reach out to any of the PwC contacts in the webpage linked to this video. Thank you.